Welcome to How Did You Do It? Our space to get to know the people behind great ideas.
Whether you're on your morning walk, heading to work, or relaxing at home, enjoy. Your daily dose of inspiration awaits. Hey everyone, and welcome back to How Did You Do It? Today we're super excited to be joined by Caleb Gibbins, the founder of Cash.
Yes, so Cash provides investing as a service through modern APIs. So put simply, they provide the tech which allows companies to launch digital investment products.
This is a great episode for all those who are interested in fintechs and investing.
Definitely, we hope you enjoy this one. Today we're so excited to be joined by Caleb Gibbins. It's so nice to have you on.
No worries, thanks.
Firstly, for any listeners who might be unaware, do you mind explaining what Cash actually is?
Cash is a fintech startup in Sydney, and what we offer is investing as a service. So we help other companies launch and operate investment products that they make available to their customers. And we really help those companies, particularly ones who don't have in-house fund managers or investment capability. So we operate the investment products on their behalf and empower them to offer investment products to their customer base.
Before we dive more into all things Cash, I really want to explore where it all started for you. So was there any significant things you did after high school, any travels or any pivotal moments leading up to Cash?
I went into uni straight from high school and I did civil engineering and law. And I think at first I thought I was going to be an engineer, and by the end it was pretty clear I was going to be a lawyer. And I moved straight from uni into a legal practice with Minter Ellison. I did the graduate program there. And I was there for 6 years, and I settled in the funds management practice. And so that's financial services funds management. And we helped exchange traded funds, listed investment trusts, and other fund managers to launch and operate investment products in a retail environment. And so I guess that background kind of started the whole Cash journey, because effectively what we do now is what I did then as a lawyer, except instead of just providing the legal service, we provide the full operational component behind investment management. But fundamentally, we're solving the same problem, which is how do we help companies launch and operate investment products as best as we can? I should say that the original vision for Cash wasn't an investing as a service company. It was a different product altogether. Originally, we launched a B2C investment product in an app, which was, we called it a cash card. It was a real-time liquid investment product that sat on top of a debit card, which meant you could invest your money and then pull it out at an ATM or spend it in store like a bank account. And when I launched Cash to build that product, I thought, this is going to be the best thing ever. Everyone's going to have real-time liquidity like a bank account and investment returns like a fund. And it'll be, the first product of its kind anywhere in the world. So I set about building that. But it became clear as soon as we built it that the business model didn't really stack up for that kind of a product. Most people who were comparing bank accounts didn't want to pay fees to invest their money instead. They felt like it should be a free or close to free product. And so you run the business model and you go, if it costs us X dollars to acquire a user and we can't charge them much at all, the business model becomes difficult. So I think after about 6 months trying to make that business work, after we'd built it, and then about 6 months, we worked out that it wasn't going to work and that we needed a new business. And the business we pivoted into was building and operating investment products for other clients. And effectively what we were doing was replicating the investment stack that we had built and using it as a service for other companies who wanted to launch their own investment products. And we built in additional capability for them, like an API interface, like an administration portal, and other features that they would need to use us as a third-party service provider. So the journey, I guess, we took to get to where we are, took us into a totally different business, but this is where we've ended up.
Super interesting. We're definitely excited to get more into that. Before we do, though, you mentioned that you were working as a lawyer before you took the leap into starting Cash. What was it that made you want to leave law?
Yeah, sure. So I should say law is a fantastic career for people who want to practice law. But that's exactly what you need to want in order to be successful in private practice in particular. And so I entered the law because out of my two options, engineering and law, it suited me much better. I found it more challenging. I did the graduate program at Minters. It was quite challenging, and you surround yourself with really intelligent people. And so I find that really stimulating. But I think by the time I settled in funds management and then, had been there for a few years, it became pretty clear that I kept wanting to step into the operational part of our clients' businesses. Issues would come up with a legal component and a commercial component, and I would find that I'd be stepping into that commercial area. And I know my partner, we had a few chats about it, would regularly say like, oh, good point, but like, that's not our role. Like our role is to provide legal advice, but like, you're starting to get into management consulting or in the operational side, or those decisions are for the client. And so often I found that I was being like pulled back a bit into a box that I didn't want to stay in. And so I found this pattern was kind of building, and it became obvious that like I was going to leave the law and try and become more executive or operational. And my options were like, do I quit and join a bank? Do I quit and join a fund manager? Do I join a hedge fund or, one of our clients? And then if I do, what role do I pick? Is it a lawyer or is it a more operational role? But none of those kind of decisions really excited me. And at the same time, I'd been playing with a few ideas about potential products that I thought would fill gaps in the market. And one in particular was this idea for a real-time liquid investment product, because I had come up with this idea that if you had a product that was real-time liquid and investment returns, well, that's a feature set that's better than anything in the market. So I'll go build that. And that kind of became the decision that I need to leave and do something more significant. I'll go build my own fintech and build a product that's amazing and better than anything in the market. And that kind of became the decision. I should say I had some personal things going on at the time as well, which complicated the decision. So my wife had just had our first daughter, which meant within a period of about 6 months, my wife gave birth. We went and got a bigger mortgage, new house, and suddenly I quit my job and started a startup, trying to raise some money. And it's like the risk level on our life went from like, very stable law career to just invested in a startup, no income, child, bigger mortgage, like way up the risk curve. So it changed like my whole life changed in like a period of 6 months, and it's kind of been a bit of a journey ever since.
Yeah, it's super interesting. How did you notice the initial, or come to recognize the initial opportunity for the product?
The time we pivoted the business from B2C to B2B, in hindsight, it feels a bit silly because it feels like the opportunity was kind of knocking on us the whole time, and we didn't see it until like it was blatantly obvious. But we were building our B2C business, and we were, like I was saying, like our metrics weren't as good as we had hoped. And so at the time where they're going, what do we do? Like, how do we acquire more users, or how do we reduce our costs or make the margins better? And at the same time, I had a few contacts of mine in the fintech space, founders and other people who were wanting to launch product. And they were asking me questions like, how did you get regulated? How to get your AFSL? What service providers did you use? How do I build something similar? And I'd actually like almost designed 2 other investment products for friends, being like, oh yeah, it's easy. Not easy, but like, this is how you do it. The steps are like this. Don't get taken for a ride by experts who say it's going to cost all this money, and like, this is how you do it. And so I was basically helping other people replicate much of our stack, or at least similar stacks to what we were building. And then, of course, at the time we were thinking about our business model, I just turned around and went, well, maybe instead of me helping you build your own stack, you could usually use ours, and could we run the fund for you and run an investment product and then deliver it to you digitally? And I ran that conversation past a few of my contacts, and the feedback was really positive. It was, yes, this is way too hard. I don't want to do this. I've been struggling for months, and if you could just fix it, that would be amazing. And so the feedback was really strong. And then I took that back to the team and our investors and said, look, the business we're running is struggling, and this new opportunity is kind of presenting. If we pivot to B2B, I reckon I can get a few contracts over the line in the first quarter or what have you. And they said, go for it. So that's what we did. And we ran a process of sales over the first quarter and got very close to our first deal. And off the feedback and traction from then, we rebuilt our tech stack so it could support third parties. And then we had to let go our marketing function and bring on a sales function and kind of turn the business around. And it kind of grew from there. Like that was the story.
I love the way you noticed that opportunity and kind of weren't afraid to just pivot a business.
say it's terrifying. It's not. It's terrifying because I think people who aren't founders may not realize how much business becomes part of your identity. And I think you've sold this vision and this idea and this product to the world, and you've said, this is what I stand for, and like, I'm successful if this is successful. So pivoting a business where you no longer stand for that message, you don't build that product, you don't serve that customer, you don't do that thing anymore, is terrifying, because it's really like changing everything about who your business is. And as long as you're consistent with your values, I think you can carry it through. But it's not an easy decision. It's a really hard decision to make. And I think in hindsight, I think we were sitting there with massive indicators saying this is a bigger opportunity over here for a long time before we really chased it. And I think part of that was because it's just difficult to make that sort of a call.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it would also be difficult to accept the fate of an idea that you really backed at the start, and accepting that that's actually not going to work and that will be so much more fruitful for the business for you to actually change it. In terms of changing the product, how difficult was that task, just at a high level? But you discussed it like it was very simple, but I'm sure that was quite a complex process.
Yeah, I think not just the product, but like the business. So like our pivot, we had to let go of team members because we were no longer doing B2C work. There were features of our product that we no longer needed. We dropped the card, we dropped the app because no longer were we the customer interface. But then we needed other features to build. So we had to build an API interface that would support multiple partners. We had to rejig most of our backend so it could support multiple partners and multiple funds with security so that each client can engage with us in a secure manner. Whereas before we just assumed that there was only one client, being like our fund, and rejigging that was a piece of work. And then understanding our client needs on a servicing basis. So they need to be able to provide customer support to their account holders. And we need to give them an administrative portal to allow them to access their customer data, process transactions, review his performance history and the like. And so after the initial pivot, like the roadmap of product features that we needed to build to support our clients even at an MVP stage was pretty significant. And so I think it took us probably 6 months to properly build out the features we would need to operate the product at any kind of scale. And then since then, obviously, our roadmap keeps growing, and the team constantly adding new things. And I think we're getting into a rhythm now of constantly upgrading our product. But I think really for the first 6 months, it was about building that minimum set of features that would be required to for a partner to really onboard into our platform.
And it's definitely such a journey, changing the product and having to cut back on staff and just redesigning the structure. How did you go about building a team and getting the right people on board to really ride that journey with you and develop the product to what it is now?
I think team is really hard. Particularly for a founder of a pre-product company or a pre-revenue company. I think I have found that the more success we have had, the easier engaging team members has become, because it is easier to motivate them. It is easier to inspire them about the vision we are building, the product we are building. So our vision for the company is to support millions of account holders and help millions of people invest when they might not otherwise invest. And that's a good thing for Australia. It's a good thing for our clients. It's a good thing for the markets. And so I think we're getting to the point now where it's not that difficult to tell a potential employee, come on board the team and make a difference in a company that has got runs on the board and will do more amazing things in the future. But when you're back at that pre-product stage, you're trying to sell a vision that doesn't really exist yet. And not only does a vision not really, the product not really exist yet, but I think even the founder or the team's understanding of their own vision is not as robust. And so there's a journey there about building your capability to communicate a vision and inspire people to join your mission or your team in a way that gets the right people on board. And I think by the right people, I don't just mean team members and employees. I mean everyone from customers to investors to team members, the entire ecosystem of people who you need to support your business to grow. They all need to believe in what you're building. And I think it really is about building that vision of the amazing things you're seeking to achieve, and then convincing everybody that not only is that amazing, but they want to be a part of that something amazing. I don't know. I think that's my 2 cents on hiring, but I found the better I become at that and our company becomes at that, and the better traction we get and the clearer our vision gets, the easier it is to bring on really good and capable people who want to join and build our company further.
You touched on it briefly. You did talk about selling the dream to future employees. Do you mind touching on how you sold that dream to investors and whether there were any challenges there?
Yeah, sure. So we've raised a seed round, which came in a few tranches, but all up it's about $1.5 million. And that's from a combination of sources. It's what they call like a party round, in the sense that there's no lead VC who took a board seat or anything. It was a combination round of angel investors and other contacts. And I think our experience was relatively common in that the first investors knew me from before, whether it be ex-colleagues from Minters or other people who kind of backed me as an individual. And then as we got more traction, as we built our B2C product, we got into market, got our AFSL, it was easier to go back to market and say, you've seen us over the last 6 months, we need more capital for the next 12 months, and then get a bit more and then get a bit more. And so that's kind of built out our seed round. I think often you hear numbers like $1 million seed round or $1.5 million seed round, but I think in my experience, it doesn't always come in one slab. And I think it's more common than people realize that it might come in 2 or 3 components, which might not all happen at the same time. And that wasn't the case for us. So I should also say that as we kind of grew, the people we got money from changed. So they started with people who knew me at first, and then it kind of went to a group of people who knew me or that were associated with our company or our clients. And then the later component was just angels or other people associated with startups in the ecosystem who we didn't know from before and invested purely on the basis of our pitch and deck.
And how long did it take you to get your product to market?
The first product took us about 12 months. And then it took us another 6 months odd to pivot away into this, into our B2B business. So now we're about almost 3 years into the journey. And we've been in market with our B2B business since October.
So you're 3 years into the journey now. I'm sure there's been lots of challenges and lessons learnt along the way. Do you mind touching on, maybe some of the major challenges and things you've had to overcome, if there has been any?
We had an existential crisis at the time we pivoted the business. And I say that because before we signed our first B2B client, COVID hit in like March and April last year. And so at the time, we had started our B2B sales process and got good feedback from potential clients. And we were sure that this is what we wanted to do. We had started building out our tech stack towards the B2B environment, but we hadn't yet signed our first clients. And so at this point, I'm like, we're good. We'll just get 1 or 2 clients that are in the pipeline of about 6. We'll get more investors. I'd lined up some new investors who were all saying, the moment you get into market, we'll run around. And it's good, getting good feedback from investors and clients and bringing on team members, and we're all good. And then COVID turns up, and within about a week, the ASX falls 36%. And suddenly most of our clients are saying, that investment product we were launching, no, come back in 6 months. I think some of them were laying off staff, and they're like, we're not going to go pay you when we're laying off people in our own team. Capital became really scarce for about 3 or 4 months. And during that time, it just looks like our business was just fried. Pre-product, no revenue. Most of our clients are saying, can't do it. Investors dried up. They're like, we don't see you getting through this one. And so it was really, really difficult at the time. And I think as a team, we pulled together a crisis meeting saying, what are we going to do? And we kind of worked out that at a minimum, we needed 1, if not 2 clients. At a minimum, we needed to shrink our expenses and to get better deals from some of our service providers. And so we did a process over about 6 weeks of squeezing our expenses, going to service providers asking for relief. We then approached the clients that we had left in the pipeline and made negotiated deals with them that were more favorable and gave them some more space out of the through COVID and longer onboarding times and the like. And then we secured a couple of investors and said, look, subject to us closing these clients, can you come in and back the company? And it all kind of just squeezed together at the last minute. And we got Spriggy Invest, our first client, on the 31st of March, which if you recall is like 2 weeks after like the ASX collapse, which we thought was insane. And so off the back of that contract, we then got the money we needed. That gave us the runway to get our second contract, and we kind of just scooted through. But there was a couple of weeks there where like you come into the office and the team look at you with these eyes, which are like, we're done, aren't we? And you kind of look back being like, not yet. Like, we're going to go down fighting. And it kind of pulled through. So I think that's our existential crisis that we had last year. But since then, it's kind of been building and growing from there. And it's kind of forged, particularly in the team members who were around at the time, this sense of like, we got through it together. And they were really there when we needed them. So I think ultimately it's just part of our story now.
I'm sure it built up a lot of resilience as a whole as well. And to flip that and ask a more positive question, what have been the most like significant or major successes so far?
I think, virtually since then, our business has gone very well and exceeded expectations. So every time we onboard a new client, like because we're effectively an enterprise sales company, like our deals are worth, a lot of money for us, like six figures. And so every time we secure a new client, it's a celebration. And like there was a time when we got the first client and then the second client, and now I think we've had 2 clients in the last 2 months, and we're running at a rate which just grows and grows. And every time we grow, it means that we need more people, we need more support, we need more, greater services from a service provider. We need to raise some more money, and the business grows. So I think if you ask me the question, what is our greatest success? It tends to change every quarter because we have a greater success off the back of the last one.
It's so great to hear about how the team really stuck through those challenges and made something amazing out of it. What is one piece of advice you would give to someone wanting to create a startup?
I just say starting a startup is really hard. And I think people who've done it before know that. And I think the founders that succeed have grit, and they are humble, and they realize that it's difficult, and they reach out for support when required. But at the same time, if you have that approach, there's a huge amount of support available in the startup ecosystem to help you. I think most founders want to help out other founders. And so if you do, my advice would be to reach out to the community and build a support network of founders and other people who have been in the startup ecosystem, to make sure that you can tap into those resources and build understanding and resilience as you go. Because if you do that, I think your chances of success will be significantly greater.
It's been so great to hear about Cash's journey so far. Before we head in the direction of wrapping up, where is Cash headed?
I think the vision for the company is to support millions of accounts and help millions of people invest. And I think our plan is to continue to grow our business and support larger and larger clients. So to date, we've signed 6 clients who offer 6 different investment products to their customers. And I think most of them are, either startups or scale-ups, and they might have a few 100,000 customers. But our journey as a business is to scale into an enterprise company so that we can partner with banks and insurance companies and other more established businesses who may have millions of customers. And that way we will be able to have a greater impact and reach more people than we could if we stay in the SME or startup space. So I think the vision for us is to grow our business from what is currently a startup servicing other fintechs into a full-on enterprise company that can service the big name banks and ASX listed companies that we all know and love.
Awesome. I can't wait to be up to date with that journey and see the company grow. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode and all of our other recent episodes.
If you'd like to see more and keep in the loop, definitely consider checking us out on Instagram at howdidyoudit_podcast. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, it'd be great if you could leave a review. Thanks so much for listening, guys.